morning. I'm Joachim Henkel, Professor of Technology Innovation Management at TUM School of Management, and I would briefly like to add a few words of welcome to the words already spoken by Professor Winkelmann. Dear Commissioner Brunner, we call you welcome at TUM, from TUM School of Management, also in the name of our Dean, Professor Kaserer. I'd like to give you, if you could click once, a bit of background why we're doing this. And this event here is part of a string of events that we call the European Union Week, which takes place since 2017. And as Professor Winkelmann just said, it has grown into a joint effort with 10 leading universities from 10 different EU countries. At TUM, it's jointly done with TUM Speaker Series, and I'm each year amazed by the professionalism of this group. Thank you. What's the purpose? Well, to celebrate the EU, because we are convinced there's so many, and I know personally from experience of working with the Commission, there's so many good things happening, but we don't necessarily are aware of them because we take it for granted. And that's a danger, because what's in the headlines, there's often the problems. There are problems, but there's more. There's many, many, many things that go well, go smoothly, and to our benefit. So why are we doing this? If you could click, please. Essentially, that's why. That was the trigger. I just learned that our guest today, you spent time in London in the 90s studying at King's College. I spent time in the 90s in London studying at University College. And that made it even more painful to experience Brexit, which was driven by a lot of populism and by an important fact. If you please click. This. Young people were predominantly, very, very clearly for Remain. In the youngest age group, we had 27% only who supported exit, Brexit. However, the older people, they were favoring leave. And participation in the votes was strongly biased toward the older age groups. Had it been equal across all age groups, would have been Remain. So what we have now is the old people decided what the future for the young people is not a good idea. So we find it very important that young people, you guys, understand the importance of the EU and care about it. With that, again, a cordial welcome to our guest. May I ask you on stage? Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, wow, it's quite loud. First of all, thanks very much. So I have to calm down a little bit with my voice. Thanks very much for inviting me and for discussing today. Looking very much forward to that, of course. It's a bit of a surprise being an Austrian from the Bavarian border, being in Munich and talking English today, but we'll manage, I'm sure. Maybe I start with what Professor just said, because that is really something which bothered me in the last years as well, the comparison to the UK. That's horrible in a way. I realized that about 3 times in my life. When I was 16, I was at school in England, and Austria was not part of the European Union at that time, not part of Schengen, and it was horrible for me to get there, to get the proof there, to get all the different topics and needs you needed to go within the European Union. The second time I went to England for studying at King's College was a time when Austria and the UK were both members. That was perfectly easy. Everything was great, everything was simple, everything was easy. And then the third time I realized that was when my boys, who are 18 now, went to school to England, and that was the time when, of course, the Brexit, just after the Brexit, and that was a horrible time again. So I felt it personally, on a personal level also, what a Brexit or the membership of the European Union has on an impact on. So I can just ask actually the UK and England to cooperate closer to us, and that's what they're doing actually. That's what they're really looking for. We've got a lot of discussions going on with the UK on how they can be involved in a more sort of intense way also, and to cooperate closer with the European Union. So that was a good start. Thank you, Professor, for that, because I think that was the worst the UK and England could do. And you could tell on the figures you just showed us that the elder people actually voted for a Brexit. In my family, I've got an uncle and an aunt. My uncle is called Bob. He's a builder, Bob the Builder. And it was completely parted. My aunt was in favor to stay. And my uncle said, no, there's no sense in staying in the European Union, because he's a builder with one digger, just digging in the neighborhood. And he said, why do I need the European Union for that? So it shows how different the approaches are. But let me come back to the real topic and what I would like to talk about. Of course, we can talk afterwards about all the different challenges the European Union has, but maybe I stick to of course, my key topics, security and migration. I think the European Union altogether stands in a way at a crossroad. We are being attacked from the east. We have the feeling that we are left alone in the west. So a lot of challenges coming up, and I think the past quarter century has transformed also everything, has transformed the global dynamics in general. We had an optimism of hyper-globalization a couple of years ago, and that has given actually way to a very intensive competition also within the European Union. We had weaponized supply chains, for instance, rising trade barriers also within the European Union. I always say, if we talk about trade and talk about the US in that respect, yes, difficult times with the US, but let's do our homework first. We have a lot of different trade barriers also, which stay for quite high taxes at the end of the day, and tariffs which the US imposes. And we do have some quite difficult decisions and big decisions to make, and actually not much time to take them. That's one of the disadvantages of the European Union. It takes us too long for some decisions, having the whole beauty and advantages of the European Union, but sometimes with 27 member states, it gets a bit complicated and maybe too slow as well. So we have got the question, do we embrace technology and throw ourselves into that, or do we step away from it with more regulations, which we're always criticized for, of course? Do we become more isolated in the whole global perspective, or do we double down on our commitment to a rule-based international order also? And let's be a bit more self-confident also as a European Union. We have achieved so many things. We've got this year of a lot of celebrations this year with 40 years of Schengen, 30 years of the Austrian, being part of the European Union. So a lot of things to celebrate, and rightly so. We can be self-confident on that. What about also our European values? Can we still afford to defend them at the end of the day? So a lot of questions we have to pose ourselves at the moment. And these are tough questions, for sure, and the answers are not easy. That's what the populists always try to tell us, that it's all easy answers around. It's not the case. It's long answers, it's difficult answers. We have to think about and to discuss it as well. But there's one principle I think we should always apply. Never let fear decide for us, decide for you. I think that's the main thing. Let's be self-confident and not fear too much. So starting with migration. One of the most discussed points probably in the European Union and all over the world actually at the moment. And migration, of course, remains also one of the most pressing and divisive also issues facing the European Union. Every year, as we know, hundreds of thousands of irregular migrants put themselves into a risk situation, into a dangerous situation to reach our shores, on the one hand, often exploited actually by smugglers, by traffickers, and this not only strains our external borders, but also tests in a way the solidarity within the European Union and among the member states also. And I think our response to these challenges cannot be some knee-jerk reaction, I would say. Instead, I think we have to work on, in a resolute way, on fixing the problems. And because it is a European challenge, we need European answers for that. That's why the European Union is so important. And this is exactly, going a bit more into detail and into substance, this is exactly what the new pact on migration and asylum is. A common framework, which was just adopted a couple of months ago, a common framework grounded in solidarity on the one hand, but also responsibility for those who need responsibility on the other hand. And also respect for human rights. That's also in the center of the European heart. The pact introduces faster procedures, faster asylum procedures, including also border procedures for migrants from countries with low recognition rates, and also a solidarity mechanism between the different member states that allows the member states to contribute through either relocation or financial support or operational assistance. And I think getting this pact through, in German it's called GEAS, I had to get used to that. We call it, in the rest of Europe, we call it pact. But getting this pact through was of course not an easy job, not at all, to 27 member states having 27 different approaches. And implementing the pact, that's what we're doing now, won't be easy, of course, either. But we can't and we will not, of course, allow fear, coming back to the fear again, dictate our agenda. Because, and that is the important point, I think, migration is above all actually an opportunity also for the European Union. It is something to be managed, yes, we have to be better in managing it, but not fearing it. And in this time of I would say, a global hyper-competition, Europe needs also to attract the best talents. And we always have to differentiate also between the irregular, illegal migration and the legal migration. We desperately need the legal migration for our labor markets. And I'm sure some of you are also legal migrants, I would say, studying here at the university. And we need those best talents from all over the world, that's for sure. And we do this by playing to our strength, actually, our tradition of innovation, our excellence, our high standards of living, being a reliable partner also throughout the whole world. These are actually our selling points as a European Union, I would say, and this is how we get the top talents to come to our universities, to come to our industries also. And there is a chance at the moment, having a US situation and a US government which has a different approach to universities, for instance. So we should take that definitely, and that's why we just established a Choose Europe approach and supporting member states by getting the good talents, the best brains also, maybe also from the United States. The same logic, I think, applies also to our border management. Again, it is more than just a national issue. It's a European issue, because a member state's border with a third country is not a member state's border, it's a European border at the end of the day. And it is these external borders actually that face a lot of pressure right now. We have the discussion also within Germany or with Germany, which bothers us a lot actually, which worries us a little bit. But the discussions with the new German government are going quite well. It's always an election time, which is a bit of which is not easy, I would say, talking to politicians in that time. But I'm sure we'll get there at one day. So I said a lot of pressure, of course, on the outside border, not only from irregular migrants, or irregular migration, but also from hybrid threats. We see that on the Russian border, Russian-Finn border, but also on the Belarus-Polish border. I've just been there a couple of weeks ago, seeing how the Belarusians and the Russians actually treat migrants and treat people, human beings, as a weapon. They use it as a weapon against the European Union. They push them over the borders to undermine our systems within the European Union. They do it deliberately. They used to take energy, for instance, as a weapon against the European Union. Energy prices were going up, and now they're even using human beings, which is just a horrible thing to see and to watch at the It's clear we need to strengthen our borders. Of course, that's what we're also doing with the pact. We're doing that. The European border and our Coast Guard agency Frontex is being scaled up. We are going to present a new mandate for Frontex, also tripling its personnel to 30,000 people to better support the national border guards in their task. And we are also increasing, and that is important for you probably, also here at the TUM, we are also increasing the use of smart and technology-driven solutions. I think that is also key for the future, and an area where institutions, of course, like yours, can lead also, from AI-powered surveillance to digital case management for asylum processes. Innovation, I think, is key to securing our borders, while, of course, also on the other hand, maintaining humane and efficient system. But the essential point, I think, on this is prudent borders are not the same as a fortress mentality. Those are two completely different things. We cannot and we will not allow, again, fear to decide for us. I think secure borders should enable, actually, not undermine. That's the difference. And the Schengen area's free movement, which is actually the key driver. The Schengen area is one of the biggest achievements I think we have, next to the euro and next to the internal market altogether. And Schengen is one of the key driver for our prosperity, for our security, for our freedom altogether. And that's why secure borders are actually the starting point for a migration policy that attracts talent to Europe and not keeps it out. Maybe to the security topic also a couple of words. The basic dictum also underpins our new approach to internal security. Security, I think, plays an important role in all different topics, in all different portfolios within the Commission also, but within the whole European Union, be it energy, be it infrastructure, be it everything else. And we put a real focus as a Commission on the security topic. First, build a solid base for international security and for internal security, but there's also always a combination of the internal security and the external security, of course, and then use that base. That also means actually standing up when it comes to fighting criminals. And under this Protect EU, we will be stepping up the fight to organized crime. That is very important, especially in the drugs perspective. Drugs trafficking plays an incredible part, negative part, within the European Union, being, of course, the most lucrative organized crime, economically speaking, at the moment. We do that with new initiatives to stop the supply of illegal drugs, illegal weapons also, and also to hamper the flow of criminal financing. Having the approach of following the money is important in that respect. And in the global context, the EU security policy is inseparable actually from its economic sovereignty, but also from its technological sovereignty. That means reducing dependencies also, worldwide dependencies we have as a European Union, be it on critical raw materials, technologies, particularly from China, of course. That is vital for securing supply chains, for defense, but also for clean tech industries. For instance, areas where you as TUM and Munich go together, and the Munich's innovation ecosystem actually plays a very important role. The European Defence Fund and the proposed European Competitiveness Fund, now in the new MFF also, and I think that will drive investment in strategic technologies, ensuring that the future of our prosperity must be made in Europe. And let's again be a bit more self-confident on that topic as well. However, at the end of the day, security is not just about defense or about technology. It's about trust. It's a lot about trust, I would say, and we cannot allow hostile actors to divide our societies, to polarize our societies. That is important, and that they do that by spreading disinformation and also promoting actually economic anxieties. We will not let their fear decide for us. And as students, you are actually the ones who have to lead and who will lead this fight by fostering, in a way, your critical thinking, which is important in that respect, and also by developing technologies to combat this misinformation. You are actually the ones protecting Europe's democracies tomorrow. And that takes me to the biggest part of not letting fear decide. It is about staying, I would say, outward looking in everything we do. And the TUM and its partner universities already know how important it is to stay open, to stay open-minded, to stay open to the world. That is something we have to focus on, and that is also a big part of your excellence, of course. In Brussels, I think we must do the same. We must stay open. We must work on our excellency. That is why we are addressing security and migration challenges by also fostering new partnerships in renewing also existing ones, be the US, of course, which is still a partner for us, which has always been a reliable partner, but maybe things have changed, of course, a little bit. But being also other partners, maybe new partners like India, like the NATO also when it comes to defense, or the Indo-Pacific parts and nations. And we saw, with all the discussions with the US in the past weeks, we saw that different regions in the world want to get involved and get engaged with the European Union, be it in trade, be it in security matters, in all different topics, which is a good sign in a way, which is a good sign that they trust the European Union and they rely on the European Union. So there are still difficult decisions to be made, and frankly, a lot for the European Union, of course, to do. But I think we definitely can succeed as long as we stay also true to our values. That is important, as long as we play to our strength also, being more self-confident, as I said before, as long as we do not allow fear to decide what our future brings. Thank you very much. I look forward to the discussion with you, and thanks again for inviting me. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. You can sit down.
Thank you.
Do you want something to drink? Feel free to.
Fine, thank you.
You've been talking quite a bit.
Too long, sorry.
No worries. I think it was very interesting, especially for us as well. Yeah, you have a quite interesting career, because before you joined the EU Commission, you were finance minister in Austria. So from balancing numbers on a national level, you now balance values, laws, and politics across 27 countries. How did this shift happen?
That's a good question, actually. Well, there were European elections, and I was always a complete, clear European. Actually growing up at a Schengen, outside Schengen border, the Swiss border. Switzerland wasn't member of the Schengen area at that time, so I actually grew up at an outside external border, and that also showed me when I was young that that Schengen, that the European Union, of course, is important. So I've always been very much in favor of the European Union. But the difference between being a finance minister because as finance ministers, we work quite intensively on a European level also, having the ECOFIN, having the Eurogroup. My colleague Christian Lindner was always very excited about coming to Brussels, I think, even though his English was not that good. But well, sorry. No, but the difference is that, of course, on an internal member state area or level, you usually have to have phone calls with in our case, 9 different regions, Bundesländer, and Ministerpräsidenten in the Bundesländer. And now we have phone calls with prime ministers and ministers of interior. So that's the difference. No, just joking. But there are a lot of similarities, I would say. And it's always good, I think, to have the experience of both, or actually 3 different levels: regional level, state level, and European level, because you know better what the other side thinks, and maybe it's easier to get compromises at the end of the day, which you need when you have 27 member states.
Yeah, so it's probably pretty hard to compare, but what would you say is harder to navigate, budgets or borders?
Well, the borders, you can at least see them on the different cards, the maps, if you look at it, which you can't do with the budgets. And both are quite challenging topics, I would say. Budgets, especially in times like these, where the economic growth is going back. There's no economic growth. As Austrians, we were very much dependent on Germany, of course, being our big brother. And being the most important trade partner, of course, we have. So we're quite happy that Germany has now a stable government again, because it's so important for the European Union altogether that we have a stable German government, being, of course, one of the most important member states. But both is challenging. Different times for different topics. Of course, I think both are the most political topics. That was what those 2 topics combine in a way. Very political, very much discussed in public. Especially, of course, migration is always something everyone knows the answer. And if you do know the answer, please tell me. I would be quite curious. Yeah.
Yeah, if we find out, we will definitely reach out to you. In your keynote, you were talking about different economies and how Europe is depending on quite a lot of them. For example, raw materials from China, as you said, but also technology from the US. And with rising global tensions in economies, how risky is that? And what is the EU doing, or what are goals of the EU to be more independent?
I think it is very key, and that's what we saw in the discussions with or about the tariffs of the US on the US side. I think it is very important, first of all, to keep on talking to the US, for sure. It is and will always be one of our most important partners, but also maybe be a bit more open to other regions, as I said before, other regions in the world. And they are actually lining up to get involved with us, which is good for Europe, which shows that Europe is a trustworthy, is a reliable partner. And let's be more open. We just went to India as a college, actually, all together. All the commissioners, well, not all of them came. The Hungarian colleague didn't come. I don't know why. But we all went to India to have partnerships on all different topics, be it trade, be it talents also, being talent partnerships, but also when it comes to raw materials. And other regions in the world, like South America, like Indonesia, like Malaysia, they're actually lining up to talk to us. And the third point is that we have to reduce our internal barriers. We definitely have internal barriers, especially when it comes to goods and services. On the services part, we have we have barriers which stand for about 110% tariffs. And on the goods side, it's about 45%. So we see, let's get rid of the internal barriers first, and that's why we are presenting actually next week. That's something which is quite quick for the European Union, a new internal market strategy to get rid of these internal barriers.
Thank you. Now, having also looked, because you talked about migration and security, and that it's often linked to fear as well. I would say that's like quite a large misconception that is always published by headlines. What would you say is another misconception how the residents of the EU or others see migration, and where are the challenges the EU is trying to fight?
Well, I think first of all, in public, the differentiation, and there's no differentiation between illegal, irregular migration, which we have to manage better, of course. That's what we try to do with the pact, but also with return regulations and other things. And the legal migration, which we desperately need for our labor markets. So I think migration can, if we look at that way, be quite a big chance also for the European Union. We have always lived from this legal migration, from the talents we got not only within Europe but also from other parts of the world. But what we have to do, I think, is talking about the legal part and the legal pathways also, and the talent partnerships. I think we have to align the different possibilities we have. Let's take India as an example. India has a lot of very bright students, bright young people, and they want to come to Europe. But there's a mismatch in what they have, what they can, what they're able to do, and what the European Union and the European industry and the European Union in general needs in a way. So we have to get a match there as well. That's why we were in India. So I think focusing and concentrating when it comes to the economy altogether, focusing on these legal pathways, on these legal possibilities, and managing the illegal, the irregular part of the migration in a better way.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. So all challenges aside, I would say we at TUM are very proud of the amount of international students we have here. So what are the biggest benefits of migration besides our international students, of course?
Yeah, of course. Studying at the TUM is one of the positive things, of course. No, but having the opportunity and the possibilities within the European Union, coming here to in this biggest, it's the biggest open part in the world actually. The Schengen area is with 450 million people living here. In the US there are 350 million, and it's the largest room, I would say, of traveling, of the possibility for trade in the world. So let's be self-confident, but we need, of course, also people, talents from other regions in the world, and we have to find solutions to make it more attractive in a way, maybe easier also, but that's a member state's competence at the end of the day. Of course, it's always Brussels' fault when something doesn't work, but sometimes we really have to look into both sides, European level and the national level, and finding solutions together, member states and the European Union. I think we are much stronger, of course, as a European Union. A single member state couldn't tackle the challenges we have, being on migration, but also being on trade altogether. So working together, I think, is key, and that's one of the advantages of the European Union.
Thank you so much. We actually have so many more questions, but we thought it would be very nice to have an open Q&A. So if any of you in the audience have a question for Commissioner Brunner, just raise your hand, and I have two colleagues with microphones. Just step out of your row, and they will give you the microphone so you can answer a question.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, for your time today, and thank you for the organizing team. I have a question. So now today the topic is migration, but the main problem lies in illegal immigration, and not rather the legal side of it. Has the European Union worked on, or how is the European Union working on tackling the solution from its root, rather than, in addition to focusing on border security? So, if we were to be honest, illegal immigration, like the most two places where illegal immigrants are coming from are Asia and Africa. And what is, or why hasn't the European Union, let's say, worked on solving political and economic problems from its roots in those countries, in order to create a reason for those illegal immigrants to stay in their countries and not come to Europe and search for those basic needs and political stability and economic stability? And that could be of benefit for both parties. So for the European Union through business and stability around the region, and in addition to economic partnerships. Thank you.
A very good question, and you are perfectly right on what you were saying, because we have to focus on the whole of route approach. That's what we are doing actually now. Probably not enough in the past, you're right, but exactly this whole of route approach is important, because I mean, migrants coming to the Mediterranean, for instance, they put themselves into danger, and we have to look at that in an earlier stage. Definitely, you're perfectly right. We have a lot of cooperations, agreements also with third countries, especially to promote that, to have the whole of route approach. The IOM, the International Organization for Migration, but also UNHCR are playing a very key role on that, and we are focusing and also financing this whole of route approach throughout, especially in Africa, of course, because that worries us actually most at the moment, this route, the African route. So yes, being early, being quicker, being helping, exactly what you said, helping those countries to get and to have opportunities in their home countries is actually key, so that they don't even have the challenge to be on this route and to get themselves into danger. So yes, we are focusing exactly on that, having different agreements with third countries.
Thank you. So if someone else has a question, maybe to make it as fair as possible, try to keep your questions as short as possible, so we maybe even have time for 2 more questions. Have you found someone?
Hello, thank you very much for your time. I was just in Berlin for a week at a deep tech conference, actually with some of your colleagues from the European Commission as well, and people such as Eric Schmidt from Google and René Obermann from Airbus, talking very much about things such as the 27th regime. We are the entrepreneurial university. What are your kind of opinions on ensuring that the internal migration with the EU accounts for things such as entrepreneurship, and countries such as Germany, where these things are, let's say, bureaucratically being slowed down? What are your opinions on that?
Maybe you can
I didn't understand everything because of it was difficult to hear.
Yeah, we have a little echo on the stage.
But you were talking about is that correct? You're talking about within the European secondary movement and also border control, Germany, is that
encouraging entrepreneurial spirit and, let's say, intra-European migration?
Okay, that's different. Okay, good. Intra-European, it's all about barriers, I would say. Barriers we still have within the European internal market, getting rid of that. And I mean, it's an open market. I didn't quite get the question correctly, I think, because if it's within the European Union, there's free movement, there's free work, you can do whatever you want. Or is it an external? I didn't quite get that, sorry. Is it a...
So, the issue being that let's take Munich as a specific example for a place where there is a lot of entrepreneurship, but looking especially at Eastern Europe, where there is a lot of talent and also a lot of ambition, making sure that these people are able to engage in the free market that we have when it is difficult for them to do so in their own home countries. Mm-hmm. And there are still significant barriers for them to come to places such as Germany or France and engage in that economic activity.
Yeah, but that's just the intention of the European Union altogether. Of course, free movement, you can do whatever you want. That's the big advantage of the European Union. Traveling, studying, working within the European Union. And then it's, of course, the member states who have to attract them, but there are better possibilities maybe in the eastern part for some economic parts or technologies, and some in Munich. It's great that you have such an exchange also with other universities, which I think is great, and which I saw is especially in the eastern part, Budapest and Bucharest, I think it was there as well. So there is that exchange. That's all about the European Union. That's what the European Union stands for, to have the possibilities, the opportunities, traveling, working, studying, wherever you want. That's the great advantage of the European Union. So that's not that's what the European Union actually stands for, and why it was founded, and which we of course always have to improve and get rid of internal border controls. That's maybe one of the questions we are discussing with some member states like Germany at the moment. What can we do for that? Not having internal border controls, making it not more difficult for people to commute or to get back and forth. That's the external dimension then, with the border controls on the outside, and having a new, better system so that member states like Germany don't have to introduce those internal border controls. But on the other hand, when it comes to studying, working, that's exactly the sense and the idea behind the European Union. Or maybe I just didn't get the question right, sorry.
So I think we are all quite grateful for those who study in Europe, that we are able to travel so easily across the Schengen network. So I think we would have time for one last question. My colleague has already picked one.
I'll try and keep it as short as possible. So I'm a Brit and a Serb, so I'm really on the outside looking in. But I just had a question, and thank you, Commissioner, for your time, and thank you, TUM Series, for organizing something so amazing. But the question is around a session for like Balkan states. And is there a conflict between like having secure borders and bringing these countries in, or actually, if we align these countries to EU standards, is it better for our borders, or is there a tension? If that makes sense.
You heard it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's so difficult, sorry, to understand. I don't
know if this is loud enough.
Yeah.
Sure. Sorry. Basically, is there a tension between like Albania, Serbia, Montenegro acceding to the EU and like border security and migration?
Okay.
Or actually does this secure the borders more, or does it make them more vulnerable?
Okay. Now I understood it. Sorry, it's difficult to understand. I think the accession procedure and with our hopefully member states, future member states, that's exactly what the whole procedure is about. To make it more secure, to fight corruption, to make the countries, the candidate countries, more secure. That's part of the path actually they're taking, and you are right. That's that's one of the key things. Talking about Albania, talking about the Western Balkan countries, which are sort of the closest to be members of the European Union. That's exactly what it's all about. Helping them also. For instance, I mentioned before Frontex. They're helping those candidate countries to be better in their security challenges, to tackle their security challenges. Also migration, of course. They are partners when it comes to migration. They have to be partners. And they are safe countries. So we are just delivering safe countries of origin, safe third countries. So in the migration respect. And of course, countries which are candidates have to be safe countries also. And that one focus beside trade, beside growth, economic growth, is of course security. Is also energy and other topics, but security is key for the whole accession period and the whole accession path.
Thank you so much. This was the last question of today. Thank you, Professor Dr. Winkelmann, for your introduction, and Professor Dr. Henke for the organization of the EU Week. And of course, special thanks to Commissioner Brunner for joining us today. I think it was a very interesting conversation, and I'm very glad some of you could ask some questions. So I think it's time to wrap up. You can now enjoy your lunch break or go back to your next lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you.